Good morning and
Happy New Year.
everybody. Happy New Year. Can you believe it? It's 2021.
Yay! 2020 is gone. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Happy New Year. And keeping in that vein, I made this little thing for everybody to watch. Now, it's just a little Happy New Year with some horses. It's got some music. You probably can't hear the music.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at all those horses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I think I also have it on here. Here, let's try. How would you like to have all those horses?
I would love that. I bet you could find some good prospects in there.
Oh my gosh, the sun just came out. Yeah, some great prospects. So, Patricia, how's your new year
shaping up? Well, it's only been a day or two, but so far I'm just hoping it's better than 2020, which of course was a crummy year for most everybody I know. So we'll put all our energies into 2021 now.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
And welcome. My name is Laura, and welcome to Equestrian Skill Builders live broadcast where we discuss equestrian-related topics and share ideas and exercises to help you and or your riders. I would like to welcome with me today, Patricia. Hi, Patricia. How are you doing?
Hey,
Happy
everybody.
New Year.
Happy New Year. So what are your equestrian-related resolutions for this new year, Laura?
I'm going to ride.
Yay.
I bought a horse. I don't know if you knew that or not,
but I saw the bay horse that you were telling me about.
Yeah, dark bay horse. So I've been riding him a bit. He's off the track, so he's we're working on rhythm and that type of thing. But if you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, or generally like other horse-related stuff, stay tuned because Patricia and I are going to help you out and get you on the road to improve your riding and win more ribbons at your next horse show. Hey, yeah. Patricia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you coming from today?
In Oklahoma, and we had a big snowstorm again, our second snowstorm of the winter so far. We got about 6 inches, which is kind of unusual for us.
Wow.
Yeah, second time so far in a month.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, outdoor.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm a USEF large R judge. And I also do some training here in Oklahoma. I'm kind of semi-retired now, but I still have some clients that go to the shows, the A shows, and some schooling shows, and I teach them at home. So I love my job. I love to teach, and I love to judge, and I love being on the show. Yay!
I know, it's so much fun. I love it too. I really do. And me, I'm Laura Kelland-May. I help people with their riding and training and understanding their horses by providing hands-on and now virtual training to produce educated, thinking horse people. You can go to my website. I'll put it here. But you know what, Patricia? I'm going to leave you for 2 seconds while I close that window so I don't get blinded. Okay. Can you handle things for...
Sure.
Okay, just give me 5 seconds.
Sure. So anyone out there, if you have riding resolutions for equestrian resolutions for the new year, we'd love to hear them. Send them in and tell us what your goals are and what you're hoping to do during 2021.
What did I miss?
I just said for anyone to send in their resolutions, their equestrian resolutions for the new year. Tell us what your goals are and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Okay, so what are your goals? I'm going to put that in the comments there.
What are your goals for 2021?
Your horse-related goals for 2021. Can you believe it? It's 2021. Like, I would never, ever have thought about that. Oh, that's it. I'd be able to, I never even thought about it. Anyway, okay. So, Mila Ballard, thank you so much for putting in a comment. My goal is to canter bareback. Awesome. That's a really good one.
Great way to get a feel of your horse and get a good solid seat. Very good.
Make sure that you're on a comfortable, quiet horse too that is going to accept you. Because usually when you canter bareback, you get that grip.
Yeah, it's hard not to
grip. So make sure that your horse doesn't mind being gripped.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And one that doesn't have those real high withers. Ouch.
Exactly. Great. Okay, so we do have some things we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about a position review. Patricia, you have a video that you sent in, and if anybody else has a video or pictures or images that they'd like for us to discuss their riding position, please send them in to us. We'd love to hear from you. And I've got a question from YouTube about trust and how to develop trust with your horse. We're going to work on that, and why horses have tension and what you can do about it, and another position review. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. And, if you find somebody here, or if you know of somebody who you think should be watching, send them right over to us right now, because we'd love to hear from them. Yeah, so let's just go to our video here.
This is my favorite guinea pig, my student Mackenzie, and her 13-year-old warm blood mare. And I told her, don't you ever come to a lesson again in a tank top. And not to mention, it's like 50 degrees outside. I tell you, kids, I just don't know how they do it. But this is a little equitation ride-off that we were practicing. So she had a rollback turn to begin with, and then a long approach to an oxer there, and then another little rollback to a trot fence. Nope, stepped out of the canter there, but she got it back together pretty nicely. And then a halt at the end.
Yes, so there's a lot going on in this. And so while we are looking at it, Patricia, how about I can go to the video and let's start it back from the beginning.
And you go ahead and make some comments too.
Okay. So I think the first thing that I noticed, Patricia, was, like you said, her shirt. I thought, well, maybe it's warm and maybe it's hot, so it's but like you say, if you're going to your riding lesson, wear a shirt with sleeves.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what did you say to her?
I just told her, I said, don't come back in for another lesson with a tank top on, because I'll send you home.
Yeah. So, and why is it not right to do that? Why,
I just think
so people know why it's not good.
It's a level of informality that we don't need. It's a level of informality, and bare skin, I just think, doesn't really have a place in riding, especially in a lesson, where you want to show some respect for the situation that you're in and your instructor. So you're not at the club.
You think it's a safety thing too?
Oh yeah, I think if you fall, you definitely will get less scraped up with sleeves, for sure.
Yeah. That's why one reason why I always thought, but I know it's a rule even in the warm up areas. Tank tops aren't permitted, and I think, like you say, it shows respect for the horse and for yourself and for the teacher as well, instructor.
I mean, when you go to a dance lesson, you wear your dance gear. When you go to a football scrimmage, you wear your football outfit. When you go to lesson, you wear your riding outfit.
Right. Exactly. That's a very good point. It's funny. I was going to say hockey, but I guess you don't think about hockey.
We don't have as much of that down here as you do.
So yeah, right. When people go to their hockey practice, they wear their hockey equipment. So she's doing something with this left hand here.
She tends to drop her left
She
hand.
drops her left hand and it's
lower than
flat. So rather than getting the bend through the horse's neck using a direct rein, she's
using a little bit of an opening rein.
Open rein with the flat hand, yeah. So that, and when you drop your hand down like that, it tends to drop your shoulder down as well. You know, if you think of, if you use a direct rein, it keeps your shoulders level and keep yourself balanced. But if you drop your hand down, you kind of tend to drop yourself down there as well, right?
Right, right. And I
And
think
this is great because we can stop the video and pick everything apart. So,
and when you, to me, when you use an opening rein too, you're displacing the horse's weight, which is something you might not necessarily want. You know, sometimes you can get them leaning on that rein.
Right. So if you use a left open rein, it tends to bring the weight onto the left shoulder, which maybe you don't really want.
Right.
Left.
Her stirrups almost look a little long too, huh? It looks like we could maybe go up a hole on the stirrups.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. I have to say, you know, the horse is so steady and so even throughout the whole thing. Like throughout the whole course, the horse's pace didn't change at all. You know, it was always a steady canter. Now, to me,
you know, that's something, some horses have that naturally, but it's something you can develop. We worked a lot on this horse with consistency of the canter on circles and through exercises. And, you know, and you can get that nice rhythm by work as well as a horse that does it naturally. But a good canter is the key to jumping, I think. You know, it gives your horse the rhythm, the pace, the stride. It's just essential to have a good canter. An inconsistent canter leads to inconsistent jumps.
Oh, that's really good. Inconsistent canter leads to inconsistent jumps. Right. That nails it. Okay, so let's move on here. So she's approaching the first jump. She does that thing with her hand again.
Yeah, she's
rather than going to her leg, she goes to her left hand to get the horse straight. Easy. Love the way she's looking around to her jump. And she turns her shoulders and her eyes, but she keeps her body quite still. You know what I mean? I mean, it's lovely.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Looking through the turn very well.
Yeah, looking through the turn, using her outside rein and leg, and there she comes to the next jump. Good. She's got to. Okay, looks like she's peeking down for the jump for the lead.
Yes. Yes.
So this is something that's that, you know, for me is kind of a pet peeve. I really hate it when people look down for their leads as a coach, and you know, even as a judge. If you were going into an equitation class, Patricia, and you were judging an equitation class, would you mark that down, or would you take notice of whether or not the rider looked down for the lead?
I would definitely take notice of that. Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to see how things come out in the mix to know how much you're going to count off for it, you know, but it's definitely going to be some deduction for sure. And it's a hard habit to break, don't you find? I mean,
and I like what you say, Patricia, it's a habit. It's a habit. Rather than teaching your body how to feel for the lead, people look down. Granted, she just looks down for a stride. You know, I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see, but you know, she just looks down for a stride. I mean, some people, they, you know, have to hang over.
Yeah. Some people really exaggerate it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I would, and it could be a tiebreaker or drop down a point or two, you know, if you look down. But she wants to make sure she gets the lead and keep the horse balanced.
Mhm.
Good, got perfect lead. Love the way she looks around for her corners. The horse is going forward. She's picked up the pace a little bit here, which is nice. Good. Look at that nice, just automatic release. Perfect for the size of jump.
Yeah, I always tell my students, when you have a rollback turn or a tight turn, you need to take the fence a little conservatively, because you don't want to blast on down to the fence and then have a rough turn afterwards. So I think that's important.
So you mean before she comes to the last jump?
The jump before your turn. Like if you have you're jumping a jump and then you have a rollback turn, or you have a tight turn, or you have a trot fence afterwards. You want to take a conservative first fence. This is a long approach to a single, so I like the way she moved up a little for it.
Right, to a single oxer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This mare is just a lovely mover. I think she wins all her hack classes. She's just got such a nice light canter.
So steady too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh no, she does the trot. So she came to the trot just a little early. Is that what you're saying, Patricia, on this one?
She trotted about at the right time when you come out of the corner, but the horse just broke back into the canter for a stride. See, right here is where I like to trot. As you turn the corner, her initial place that she trotted, as you turn the corner and head straight towards your trot jump, that's when I like to trot. And then the horse just broke stride for a stride, broke gait for a stride. But she got it back together and got a good trot fence. To me, as a judge, breaking early like that is less of a fault than cantering that last stride or two right in front of the jump.
Okay. Yeah, it's too bad that she didn't just keep that trot. Just keep it. Yeah, but the horse stays.
Trot fences take a lot of practice in the middle of a course, I think. If you're starting out warming up over trot fences, that's one thing. But it's a good test, because getting the horse going in a forward mode, jumping consecutive jumps, and then all of a sudden throwing a trot fence in there is not easy.
Yeah. So what does she do after the fence here? So she should sit up a little bit more and keep the horse together. Mm-hmm. And then after, it looks like, okay, she looks for the lead.
Yeah, looking down.
That's a habit that we got to break.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when she came out of the corner at that trot, she kind of set her hands. Her hands weren't really working with the horse to hold the trot. She kind of set
right here
on the neck a little bit. Yeah, right about
right
there.
Yeah.
So she just kind of set the hands on the neck a little bit instead of working with the horse to keep that trot.
And I think too, I mean, we're getting picky here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. That she could have kept the bend a little bit more and rode the horse a little bit more over top of the fence to keep the lead.
Right.
Not that, I mean, the horse has beautiful lead changes. So yeah. Awesome. Nice. But I see what you mean about her hands.
Yeah, she set up a little soon there, but she was anticipating the canter. And even with that, the canter transition was just so-so, not one of my favorite canter transitions. There was a little bit of pull and resistance going on there.
Yep. I like the fact that she doesn't over jump the jumps, like she sees some people. Okay, so there's a lot of pulling going on. Love that she's using her legs to keep the horse going forward, but I do see a lot of pulling and then nothing really happening.
The horse never kind of dropped his head and relaxed into the halt like I like to see.
Yeah, there's lots of tension there, isn't there? Excellent. So what can we do to help this rider?
Well, I think gymnastics where she has to look ahead and can't drop down to check the lead. A lot of times what I do after a fence, set a fence in the middle of the ring, and when they land, they have to feel which lead they're on and turn in that direction instead of automatically getting a lead change. And I just tell them they have to keep looking up and feel that lead as long as it takes to make that turn. What about you? What suggestions do you have?
So for this rider, I would like to see her. I love your gymnastic exercise. Yeah, being able to feel the horse. I mean, you could even walk that back to lunging and teaching her how to feel what her hips are doing when the horse is trotting. Does she look down also when she does her diagonals?
No, she's pretty good about her diagonals. Yeah. It's mainly to set up that lead change. She's worried that, she won't catch the lead in enough time to set up the lead change. But you just have to start to feel it and trust in your feel.
Yeah, exactly. Trust in your feel. I like your exercise, putting the jump in the middle to feel the horse. Okay, so we do have a comment here. Charlie says lunging without reins. Lunging without reins so that she gets her elbows softer. And I mean, I'm thinking back up the bus too, to lunge, to do exercises to help her feel what's happening with her seat so she can feel her horse in the saddle. So even riding, you can't see what I'm doing here. Is riding, put your palm of your hand on the I'm talking, you can't hear me. To palm of your hand on your lower back so you can feel what your back is doing and feeling what your hips are doing. So all those kind of investigative exercises to help her just feel. And you know what? Just keep your head up. Just keep your head up. Keep your head up and teach yourself how to feel it rather than looking for it. Like you say, Patricia, it's a habit. Like her lower leg is good. Her legs are good. Her release is good. She's not interfering with her horse. It's those little things. Her hand dropping down, maybe to ride with the stick underneath your thumb so she doesn't drop her hand down.
And this is what I call a low intermediate rider, maybe high novice. So these are kind of common habits that they have to overcome at that stage. I'd expect a rider that's more of an intermediate rider doing 2-3 foot as opposed to 2-6 to have a little more finesse because they've got more time under their belt, more experience.
So with your exercise of setting a jump up in the middle is a great one. Is to put it one jump up in the middle, jump it, and turn to the direction that your lead is on. Is that what you're saying?
Great. Feel the direction of the lead that you're on and turn in that direction so you don't have to get it changed. And it gets you used to feeling the lead and then not having the pressure of having to get it changed, but just being able to relax and feel the lead.
So important. So important. What will the rider, for people who don't know, who are watching, who don't know, what will the rider be feeling when they're landing on left or right lead so they know which way they are to turn?
I think
what's happening with their body when they're doing that?
I think you have to stay straight on top of your horse so you can feel the shift to whichever lead they land on. And I think you have to feel it from the back end. When the horse canters, they step, you can see it quite clearly here. He's stepping off that inside hind, that inside right hind to canter. And that's what you have to feel for instead of looking down to see what the front end is doing.
I can remember the first time I actually felt that happening. And if you are still watching, it was at the Lawrencetown exhibition in a pleasure horse class. and you walk. We were walking, and then we had to do left lead, and I could feel my horse with his hind legs trying to figure out which leg to get, because this left lead was a bad one to get. So I could that was the first time I actually really felt that, and it's so neat when you can feel which leg they start the canter with, and once you get it, you can feel it.
And it's also important, so in a flat class or even a jumping class, if you do happen to pick up the wrong lead, you can change it immediately. You know, if you're not sure what lead you're on and it takes you a while to figure that out and change your lead, you know, you're definitely a dead duck in the water, where sometimes if you can change it quickly enough, you can get away with it.
Yeah. So, and in an equitation class, particularly at the novice level, I think that if you are on a wrong lead and you correct it within a couple of strides, I think that's okay. But you know, if you're in a upper level A show at an advanced level, you know, and you mess up your lead, well, then you're toast.
Yeah, yeah. But I think at the novice level or schooling show level, it's like you said, like we said a little bit about the looking down for the lead. You're going to make a note of it, and it's going to figure somewhere in your calculations, but it's not going to kill the rider.
So Charlie says many riders have difficulty feeling the weight. Look with your eyes and pelvis with outside leg giving lead aid. Perfect.
Very correct. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's great. If anybody has any questions about that or more comments, great. But we are going to go on to our next topic. Believe it or not, Patricia. Oh my gosh, it's 10, like 2 minutes till 10. Okay, so our next topic is, where's my notes here? Exercises to develop trust. So I had so trust. Somebody was asking me about this, about trust. How do they get their horse to trust them? Because they lack communication and they want to know how they can develop trust with their horse. So, and it's not just about giving carrots all the time and you know, being their best friend. At least I don't think it's about being their best friend. But Patricia, do you have any thoughts about how to develop trust with your horse? Like what does it mean to you?
One of the most
here we go. Charlie's still here. Yep. Excellent.
Groundwork, definitely. Establish a relationship through groundwork. I think one of the most common ways to break trust over fences is to get left. You just can't do it, because if a horse makes an effort and jumps a fence badly, and then you sit on their back and catch them in the mouth, they lose their faith in you. Where at least if they jump the jump short or long and you stay with them, they're like, okay, well, I'll try to do that better next time. But you know, if you sit on them and catch them in the mouth, they're not going to even want to try again. So that to me is a real important thing. You just got to learn to stay out of your horse's way when they jump.
Excellent. I totally agree with that. And now that you've said that, I've got this video that I'd like to show. If you just stand by, and it's directly about what you were talking about. And this is one of my favorite video clips. It's Richard Spooner going over the big jumps and going along with what you said, Patricia, about not getting left behind and kind of trusting your horse. Here is what he did. Just there we go. Don't know if you could see what's happening here.
And he kept a little bit of seat because he wanted to be able to help the horse over the jumps, but still very light and not interfering. And of course, just throwing away the reins, trusting riders' trust on the
How
horse to
how
get the
how is
treat.
that for a communication and trusting
Mhm.
horse and rider? I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
amazing. He goes through the jump, totally loses his then this is one reason why you practice, and then just picks him up, carries it on, and these aren't these aren't little jumps.
Mm-mm. No,
Uh,
no.
like, just amazing. Those aren't little
Mhm.
jumps,
It
right?
was.
So one of my favorite exercises for establishing trust and communication. Okay, so Charlie, thank you for the comments, Charlie. If you cannot communicate with your horse on the ground, they won't communicate well in the saddle. True enough. So what you do on the ground is also really important for what happens in the saddle.
And I
So
think too, if they don't have respect for you on the ground, they're not gonna have respect in the saddle. I'm not saying you should be overly harsh on your horse, but they have to kind of respect you and respect your space, and then I think that carries over when you ride as well. If you're a pushover on the flat, they're gonna think you're a pushover riding.
yeah, ex- perfect. Makes
Mhm,
sense to me.
mhm,
And also, and that doesn't mean giving your horse carrots and apples and
mhm,
treats, and it's developing those things. So one, developing communication, and I think communication and trust are very close. Respect each other. Western dressage lady here. Yep. So Charlie says she's a Western dressage lady. Thank you so much, Charlie. Respect
thanks,
each other,
Carla.
Western dressage lady here. Yeah, perfect. I totally agree with that. And one of an easy exercise that I often ask people to do to help with the communication and trust is put out a single rail on the ground anywhere in your riding area and ask your horse to step over it with its front legs and leave its hind legs on one
Yes,
side and its front legs are on the other. And it's you can do this leading your horse. It's great, or riding your horse. It's an easy exercise to do. It's simple exercise to do. Just ask them to stand with the pole underneath them. And to me, this gives the riders, if they're young people, it gives them a focus. It's something they can do. They just go over part way over the pole and
mhm.
stand. Once your horse has his front legs on the other side of the pole, just stand there and reward your horse. So the horse, you've asked the horse to do something, then you give the horse a reward for doing it. And to me,
Yes, and
this
if you've asked them something kind of out of their comfort zone, then
is
that and
something
that
different.
always increases trust. I think if you are successful coming out of your comfort zone with help, you know, you always are a little more confident the next time around.
Yeah, exactly. And just the simple act of stepping over the pole is gives a point of the exercise, and then once they get it done, they get a reward. So there's a step, there's a ask, the horse does something, and then they get a reward. So and then once you've done that, you step over, then you walk completely over it. And then the next step for me would be once you get that done and the horse understands, okay, she's asking me to do something, the next step would be to step over it with the front legs and then rein back over the pole. Instead of walking forward, rein back over the pole. So they walk over the pole with both front legs and then step over the pole going in rein back. Same sort of thing. And then the next step for me would be standing with your horse's hindquarters towards the pole and ask them to back over the pole.
Mhm,
That would be like the 3 steps. And, you know, it might take you a month to do that, might
mhm.
take you a couple weeks to do that. It's just something that you can work towards.
Right, right, and I think I really believe in, Charlie, that you Western people generally have it down to breaking and what's the word I want to use? Getting horses broke on the flat and I mean broke on the ground. I know I always sent my horses, young horses, to a quarter horse guy because they are great about keeping them, helping them face things that they normally would be scared of, and developing trust in a rider that way. That's important, I think.
Yeah,
And,
it's huge.
um,
Yeah, so by the time they got the groundwork done, the horses knows that this rider's going to be asking me to do something, so it's virtually is broke.
right, right,
Right?
right. And I think the more things, when I know it's not a comfortable thing when your horse spooks, but the more opportunities you have to ride through something like that, the more you build trust. If you ride your horse and nothing wrong ever happens, you both just get kind of complacent. But when something happens like a spook or a shy or a bad jump and you can ride through it successfully, I think that just makes your horse trust you more.
Yes, I agree. And this kind of goes into pardon me, our next topic, which is so trust, why horses rush or have tension and what you can do about it. So this is the trust and the tension and what we can do about these kind of meld in together. Yeah,
Mhm.
Charlie says, let's see. Charlie says desensitization on the ground first.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. Like I said, that the man that we used to take our young horses to, he did such a great job of like carrying a bag of noisy cans or something on the horse and walking them over water and little homemade bridges and two by, big sheets of plywood, just to find things that might make them nervous and help them through it, to desensitize them, as Charlie says.
And that also develops the trust with your horse
Mhm.
and communication,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
those are all, yeah, yeah. Charlie agrees. Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. There we go. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
excellent. Okay. So tension. So tension. It's just all the same thing. We're developing the trust. We're developing the communication, and so we're going to go on to why do horses rush or have tension? And I think those two things are linked. So Patricia, so people who don't know, what do we mean by horses who rush?
Horses that tend to get fast especially when faced with a task, like picking up the can or doing a downward transition, jumping a jump. But I think it's important. When I worked for Nona Garson, the Olympic rider, for many, many years, and she was so good about this. She said, you have to know your horse, because horses are just like people. And some horses just tend to have more nervous or insecure personalities than others. You can't just assume that every horse is brave, and if your horse isn't, they're being bad. And I think that's where the trust comes in, to bring those horses out of their shell a little bit, the ones that might be of a nervous frame of mind.
Yeah, so I exactly, and I like where you say that horses have just different personalities, just like some people have different personalities, and some people are more outgoing and don't mind stepping into new situations, whereas some people say, I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
not going on a live program with Patricia. That's just
And
crazy.
I've had several horses that are what I call overachievers. And that can make a horse get tense and strong just as much as a horse that's kind of a nervous Nelly. There are lots of horses that they hit a rail and they jump better the next time. Some horses hit a rail and they just fall apart. They're like,
Yeah,
what did I do wrong?
they
I
just shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's you have to again know your horse's personality and whether
So
they're trying
so what can
too
you do
hard
about it?
or
So
they're worried to
so
try.
so so I'm coming to a lesson with you,
Mhm.
and my horse is rushing. So we're just jumping the jump and going to the next fence. What are we gonna do?
I
Are we
think
gonna get it done today?
no, I think it's going back to basics. because there's something either that the rider is doing to communicate tension to the horse, or the horse is fearful or intense about doing their task. And either way, repetition and going back to basis. If you can't canter a series of pulls on the ground without your horse getting fast, you certainly won't be able to canter a course of jumps with your horse without your horse getting fast. So I would go back to pole work. I'd go back to some easy gymnastics. Keep it easy for the horse. Don't overface them. And then keep repeating it and make sure you don't move on to the next step until they feel really comfortable and confident.
Yeah, I'd like where you say you go back to something that is easy for the horse so that they can get their confidence back. So it might be, if you're jumping 3 feet, that you go back to jumping 2 feet for a while, or like you say, go back to poles on the ground and develop them there so they get their confidence, and then move them up again. So because it could be that they are being overfaced, or, spin the wheel, and because you really don't know. It's a guessing game. Your horse, I think anyway, that horses are rushing because something's bothering them, and we have to try to figure out what it is.
It is, yeah. That's part of your responsibility as a rider, I think, is not just to take things at face value, but go a little deeper and find out exactly what's going on with your horse, or what's going on with you, that you communicate some tension to your horse. But I find the major reason for rushing and tension is overfacing the horse, just going a little too fast. They need time to digest things and for them to become second nature before you move on to the next step. Whenever I have kids that are showing in a division and they're successful and they want to move up, after a show or two, I'm always like, why not enjoy your success? Settle in, see how consistent you can be about holding that success. And then when you both get really bored, then it's time to move up.
Love it. I think that's great, and make little changes and understand what the changes are. But of course, you have to make sure that there's nothing wrong with your horse. Like your horse isn't sore somewhere, your tack, the veterinary's involved. If things are if you think there's something amiss with your equipment, or you have to make sure that you cover all your bases. It's not just your training program. It might be something even deeper than that. That's your nutrition. It could be your tack. It could be your footing on the ground, or
sometimes it's just as simple as changing a bit.
Yeah,
hard footing can definitely make a horse tense and unhappy. There's no doubt about it. The concussion when they land at the canter after a jump definitely causes discomfort if the ground is too hard.
Yeah.
And we all know horses, if they're not comfortable, what do they want to do? They want to run away. They're flight animals. They want to get away from whatever is bothering them.
Okay, so let's if anybody has any questions about that, and if it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining us today, because we'd love to have you here. And if you have any questions or comments about what it is that we're discussing, I'd love to hear from you. And Charlie recommends or suggests chiro, massage, farrier training, all a team. Right. Absolutely. Exactly.
Absolutely. And if you're an athlete at a high level, like you're competing, in tennis tournaments or something like that, you would get those things. You would get massages. You would get anti-inflammatories if you end up being sore. You would get, acupuncture or chiropractic. So I don't think we can expect anything less of our horse athletes,
Right. So it's the holistic thing. It's not just, yeah. And your program is part of that as well. Okay, so exactly. Charlie says exactly. Thank you, Charlie, for your comments. They're
Thank you,
wonderful. Love it.
Charlie, for keeping us company
We're
today.
gonna get Charlie on the show. We're gonna have a Western perspective on the show.
Mhm.
It's, Charlie and I are both from Nova Scotia, and we've known each other for a long time.
Oh, yes.
Welcome. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, okay, so if it is your first time here, thank you so much. If it's not your first time here, thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to watch us. And we're going to move on to our next photo, and it's another position review. I just have to stop this here. No, I want to stop that, and I want to add this one. I'm hoping this is the right one. Yes. Okay, so this person sent in a photo to have a position review done. Thank you so much for sending this in to us. And if you would like to have your position review done, send me in an email with a photo, and we will get you live on the program like this person. I'm just putting the email in the chat, and I'm going to put it on the bottom bar. If I can find where it is, send an email. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so this person has sent in her picture to be reviewed. Patricia, what is some things that stand out about you about this rider?
Well, the first thing I have to say is I'm impressed with the rider's turnout. I mean, her boots fit beautifully. They're shiny. Her breeches are clean. She's got gloves on. She's got her hair is neat. You know, I think she's just very well turned out, and I appreciate that. I think her
Awesome.
stirrups are long. I think
Okay,
that's
so
the base of
stirrups,
the
I think
problem.
her stirrups look long. So for people who don't know, Patricia, how do you know if your stirrups are the correct length or not?
I like to have them hit right about the ankle bone.
Okay.
But you have to take in consideration your horse's size. You know, if you're on a very wide horse, it's going to take up more of your leg and your stirrups need to be a little longer. If you're on a very narrow horse, your stirrups might need to be a little shorter. So that's kind of a rough guide, you know, that hitting the ankle bone, and then you have to make adjustments from there. Also, to me, the higher you jump, your stirrups should get a little shorter so that you're able to stay out of the horse's way over those big jumps.
Right. So yeah, so I even go a little bit more in specific with as far as stirrup length goes. The top of the stirrup tread should hit the bottom of your ankle bone.
Mm.
That's that.
That's
And then,
about what I do, yeah.
yeah, so and then if you wanted to, as you say, when you do jumping, if the higher the jumps, then the top bottom of your stirrup should hit the top of your ankle bone.
Mm-hmm.
So around your ankle bone is good. But this person, to me, like you say, it looks like she should have her stirrups.
Because you can see if you take the leg out of the stirrup, it's going to be way below that.
Yeah. So we want the
That
stirrup
ankle bone.
like that. So yeah. So what we would like is her stirrup to be, her foot should be heels down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to see this angle here, hip, knee. Ah, my thing's not working here. Hip, knee. Oh my goodness. Broke her leg. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try that again. You kind of know. Hip. We'd like to have this angle a little bit more closed.
Mm.
Right? Right now it's a little bit open.
Right. Because that longer stirrup, in order to stay out of the horse's way, she's having to stand in her stirrups. to be
Right.
able to
She's
clear the
standing in her
saddle.
stirrups. Oh, here's one of my favorite things, Patricia. Now you just
Mhm.
reminded me. What would happen if we took the horse away from her,
Mhm.
underneath her? Would she land on the ground in balance?
Mm-mm. No, she's going to land and fall back on her behind.
You think she's gonna
Or
fall
tip
back this way?
forward. Well,
Yeah,
if
I
she
think she's gonna
lands
go
on
this way.
her leg's gonna be in front of her, which is gonna make her kind of fall back, I would think, but it's a toss-up. Could go either way.
Well, we're in agreement that she's not in balance.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that's the thing to keep in mind. And when you're in your 2-pointer jumping position, we would also like, at least this is what I look for when I'm judging, is like you'd like to have a straight line, shoulder, knee, toe.
Mhm, mhm,
And we're not really getting that.
mhm,
We want her shoulders back there a little bit more, right?
mhm.
Shoulders back there,
Absolutely.
back flat, shoulders back a little bit more, seat more
Uh-huh,
of the top of the saddle,
uh-huh.
knee, and then a little bit closer angle there. I really like that she's not interfering with the horse. I like that she is looking up and looking forward. There's a lot to like. It's just we're just tweaking her position just a little bit so she can stay
Mhm,
in balance with her horse a little bit more.
mhm.
What do you
Yep,
think,
absolutely.
Patricia?
I agree with everything you're saying. Absolutely. And I think just shortening the stirrup is going to cure a lot of the problems because her back is pretty flat. She's got her arms are in front of her body, so she can give a good release. That's a little bit of an automatic release, but it's well done. Everything is wants to be in the right place. I think it's just a little difficult because the stirrups are too long.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it when you said that she's standing up in her stirrups. Rather
Mhm,
than folding
mhm,
and staying with her horse, she's trying to stay with her horse by standing up in her stirrups.
mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the only way to do it when your stirrups are too long
Yeah.
because you don't have that angle in your knee that enables you to balance over your leg, you know?
So, what can we do to help this rider? What kind of okay, so wait a minute. Charlie's weighing in here. Two forward, shorter stirrup, nice eyes. Yep, exactly. Totally agree with what you're saying there. Love this rider's eyes, looking up, looking forward. I like where her hands is. I would like to see a little bit more with
Right.
loop, but you're saying, Patricia, this is like an automatic release, which
Mhm.
is true. Else did Charlie say? Shorter stirrup, two forward. Yep. I totally agree with you. Like to see her hip over the middle of the saddle more and a little shorter stirrup here with her
Mhm.
shoulders up there.
Mhm.
Did you like my drawing?
Yes, look at that. You're quite clever with those lines.
Here's my secret weapon. I've got a touch screen.
Oh, you do?
I've got a touch screen and I've got a
Um,
stylus thing here
yeah,
that I can write
stylus.
right on
That's
my screen. Because if I use my mouse, it's not good.
mhm.
Anyway, excellent. So, Patricia, exercises for this rider?
Well, the first thing, like I said, you got to shorten those stirrups, and I think that's going to take care of a lot. I mean, I think everything really wants to be in the right place. But then, of course, we go back to the gymnastics to be able to hold your center of balance over your leg. If you can do that through gymnastics, you certainly will be able to do it over a single fence. So I would recommend that. I would recommend lots of 2 points, staying close to the saddle, uh, being able to still use your seat very lightly while you're in your 2 point or half seat. You don't want it so far out of the saddle that you can't ever use it.
So how do you fix that, getting too far out of the saddle? Okay, so we've asked her to shorten her stirrups. So how do you keep your seat closer to the saddle with a shorter stirrup?
I think you have to practice that 2-point, and not just the 2-point going around in a circle, but the 2-point during difficult things like transitions, and the 2-point lengthening, the 2-point collecting, even the 2-point bending, I used to laugh when I would sometimes go in some events because it was the wrong time of the season to find shows. I would always get a really high mark in the dressage, even though I'd get killed for my position. But I could still do all the movements, even though I wasn't in a full sitting position, because my 2-point was effective and my light seat was effective.
Right. Yeah, so I like your idea of practicing the 2-point, and I would even do 2-point over trot rails, 2-point over some raised rails, not really high, maybe 6 inches high, just enough that the horse has to really use himself a bit more, and makes the horse more bumpy. So they have to understand how to use their hip, their knee, and their ankle to absorb the movement of the horse. So I'd like to do that. Also, some really good exercises. Let's just take a look at her again. To include would be lunging on a lunge line, doing exercises without stirrups to help get your body independent from each other, like your shoulders independent from your hips, independent from your legs. So doing some exercises over on a lunge line on a suitable horse, if this one isn't suitable. And you know what? One of the hardest exercises to do, I think, in the 2-point is going from a halt to a walk. 2-point. That's a really
You're right. Yeah.
good exercise because they have to use their legs, and the horse goes from a standing position going forward. Well, oftentimes, if you're not in balance, you fall back. That's a good way to do it. Shortening the stirrups would be the first step for me, and doing exercises to help educate this rider on how to balance over top of their leg without standing in the stirrups.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. What we talked here is really important. What we talked about is really important, but it may not be the most important thing that you can do to improve. So, we've got lots and lots of other things that you could do. And, if you have any questions, if you'd like to send an email and so that we can figure out the best thing for you to do, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's 10:29.
It's time, I know. Yes, and if you have any suggestions as far as exercises that have helped you overcome any issues you've had in your riding, we'd be very interested in hearing those.
Okay, so Charlie says exercise on stairs, steps, raise and lower legs. Right. Totally agree. Yeah, so if you have any comments, questions, we would actually, that was a really good thing, Patricia, to ask people to send us in their exercises. Where did I do that? Send us an email. That would be great. Love you too, Charlie.
Bye, Charlie. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. Love it. Okay, so I'd like to wish everybody a happy new year. And Patricia, any last words?
Yes, start the new year off by practicing and working at home. Perfect what you want to do at home first, and then go to a horse show. I mean, you'll never perfect it all the way, but let's eliminate the big errors if we can, right?
Yeah. Practice at home what you're going to do at the horse show. Excellent. Now go use this stuff and go hug your horse. See ya. Bye. Oh, next week we have Linda Hawk of tapestry equine girths. She
Uh-huh.
developed a new girth and designed it, developed it, made it, now selling it, and we're going to talk
Wow.
with her about her process and her ideas about horses, and so it's going to be really great. So
Interesting.
we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye.